my channel. I'll be starting PA school in May 2020, so in 3 months from now. And in this video, I wanted to share my timeline to PA school and how I fulfilled all the requirements in order to apply to PA school. There are a lot of requirements that are necessary before you can even apply to be a PA student. Some of those are patient care experience, or PCE, healthcare experience, or HCE, shadowing experience, volunteer experience, and of course the prerequisite classes for PA school. Most programs also require that you have a bachelor's degree before you apply to PA school because PA programs are typically master's programs. I'm a non-traditional pre-PA student, so what does that mean to be non-traditional? Well, a traditional pre-PA student would be someone who goes into their college education or their bachelor's program knowing that their sights are set on medicine. So that could be medical school or PA school, but typically that person is either majoring or possibly minoring in something science related in order to fulfill those requirements for PA school. And then they typically apply directly after finishing their bachelor's or possibly after a gap year. So I did not take that path, and I know of many, many other PA students and pre-PAs who are also non-traditional. So let me tell you guys a little bit about what my timeline over the last years has looked like. So in 2014, I graduated from my bachelor's program and I earned a Bachelor of Arts in Visual Studies. So my undergrad was very focused on creativity, art history, philosophy, all kinds of things in that realm, and I loved every second of it. So I have absolutely no regrets about taking that path. And to be honest, I'd never had an interest in medicine up until, that point, and even a little past that point. So there was no sense of missing out on studying medicine at that point. I had sub-matriculated into a master's program at Penn, where I went to undergrad, and that means that I started my master's during my senior year of undergrad. So the 2-year master's program only took me an additional year. In 2015, I graduated with my master's in integrated product design. So that was a degree within the School of Engineering at Penn, and I expected at that point to be a product designer. Beginning of 2016, so in January 2016, I started working in healthcare innovation. I was in a lot of clinical settings for my job. There was a lot of embedding myself in settings, doing shadowing and observing and talking with patients, and I just really found that my heart was in that, and I wanted to be in those environments more and more. With the role that I had, as much as I loved what I was doing, I could only be in those environments so much in order to do what I was there to do. That's what led me to starting to think about actually pursuing a career in medicine. I'd only been out of school for about a year when I started, really seriously considering this. So that was a pretty big shift in thinking like, okay, I just finished 5 years of school, and now I'm going back for, how many more. I ended up working in that position for 2.5 years. So after I really solidified within myself that I was pursuing medicine, I started shadowing right away. I already did shadow as part of my job, part of my role, as I mentioned, but I started to really just take every opportunity I could get. And I was extremely lucky working in healthcare and, having all the clearances that it requires to go into a setting where you're interacting with patients. I reached out to so many people. I reached out to people I was working on projects with and that my colleagues were working with, and people I had never even interacted with in any form, just saying who I was and what path I was on, asking if I could shadow them. In the beginning, I wasn't really thinking about accumulating shadowing hours. I was just thinking about, I want to see as much as I can see to decide what role in healthcare is right for me, and just to know that this is the path I want to take, because there's so much sacrifice involved. And like I mentioned, I was going back to school, kind of a revolving door. I just got out of school and I was thinking about going back to school. And I wanted to really be sure that it was something I was passionate about, that I liked the role, and that it was something I would want to do for my whole career, basically. So in 2018, I left my job in healthcare innovation in June. I did an EMT training in July and August, so that was a 7-week training, and that was something I chose mostly because of my timeline. I personally didn't have any passion or anything like that around becoming an EMT, just to be totally honest with you guys. That was not a passion project for me. It's the bigger goal of becoming a PA that is my passion project. And so I chose, a 7-week training that was super affordable and that didn't require me to quit my job much sooner, so that I could, continue to have that income and the freedom that I had during that time. I had completed my EMT training, so I was eligible to sit for the National Registry exam, which I did in September and passed. So I was a certified EMT. I was eligible to work as an EMT, but the next step was finding a job. And that was not easy, mostly because of my own doing. I, wasn't over the moon about working as an EMT, so I applied for a lot of jobs that were related but not direct, EMT or ambulance positions, just hoping that they would see my qualifications as sufficient or related to where I would be able to do those other jobs or train for those. Ultimately, that was not working out. I could not even tell you how many jobs I applied to. It was probably at least 30. I started to apply for jobs in medical transportation, and that's what I ended up doing. So I finally got a job in December of 2018, and I started working as an EMT at the very end of December, so very end of the year, and ended up doing that for 4 months. I was working 36 to 40 hours a week during that time, and I was also in school full time, so it was, how do I put that? It was not fun. Then I started to work in neuropsychology, where I work now. So I got a job as a neuropsychometrist or neuropsychology tech, and I do cognitive testing with patients. So, back in the office type environment, mostly working with outpatients, and a much different environment than it was working on the ambulance, for sure. So I turned in my application in end of June or beginning of July 2019, and at that point I had around 400 formal patient care hours. That's a very small number if you have kind of been doing research on pursuing PA school. So July and August of 2018 I did that training, and then in September I started my post-bac at Jefferson. So it was a bit of a whirlwind that summer, to say the least. A post-bac is a program that's designed for career changers generally. There are also post-bacs that are geared toward people who want to improve their GPA, their science GPA, and the post-bac that I attended was geared toward career changers. Since I did not study science in undergrad, I had about 2 of the required prereqs for PA school. When I was still working in healthcare innovation, I started to volunteer in art therapy at a rehab hospital. So that was a setting where a lot of patients had traumatic brain injury or other types of injuries. I felt like that was a really good fit for me, and it was an opportunity to work closely with patients and understand more of what they were going through while bringing some of the skills I already had to the table. So I did that weekly for quite some time. For a while I did it bi-weekly, and really enjoyed that experience. I was just looking for a bit of a change at that point, looking for something different. I started to volunteer with a hospice over here in Jersey, and that's what I've been doing for my volunteer experience up until now. I also took a volunteer trip to Peru last spring. So that trip was a full week, and I was in a small city in Peru and largely doing shadowing and helping out in different clinic settings. I do speak a little bit of Spanish, but it's limited, so I wasn't able to do as much as I would have loved to do. I would really like to improve my Spanish and go on medical mission trips in the future, but that's a topic for another video. I was offered an interview at my top choice school near the beginning of September, and that interview was scheduled for mid-September. So I went to my interview, and then a couple weeks later, on October 1st, I found out that I was accepted, and yeah, there's no way to describe that feeling. All of the work and all the stress and all the passion and all the worry that goes into this process, you know, when you come out the other side and you achieve that and you're accepted, it's just amazing. So thank you so much for watching, and I really hope this video has helped you in some way on your path to deciding if PA is the right career for you, or maybe towards becoming a PA student. If you guys have any questions, put them in the comments below, and I'll try to get to them on my next video. See you guys!